Here we go.
Hey,
Thanks.
Moises.
How are you?
Beautiful. Oh, my master base soul is in here. Awesome.
Yes. And now we're also live on YouTube. Well, thank you everyone for participating. And we can start actually the meeting since we have gone live on YouTube. Thank you all for participating. We have Master Bass Sola, Ana Paula Jones. We have Laura Branco. And this is a meeting to talk about capoeira and its influences in the Brazilian culture. Why is it so popular in the world? And the capoeira in Cleveland. And it's sponsored by Cuyahoga Arts and Culture through Caramu House. And if you're watching it on YouTube, please don't forget to put your like and subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications about our next videos. So how are you guys doing? First, I'd like to have you guys introducing yourselves. My name is Moises Borges. I live in Cleveland and I work with the broadening of the Brazilian culture, and I play live music and do some cultural presentations in festivals and schools. And this is part of a project also about Afro-Brazilian culture that I submitted to the Caramu House, and I'm glad they granted it. So we have this opportunity to put this together. Mr. Bresola, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, yes, my name is Mestre Bessola. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So I started capoeira because my father was a capoeirista. So I started like 2 years old when he's taught me. And then later on, when I was 16, I met my former teacher. So pretty much I've been doing capoeira for my whole life. I now live in East Palo Alto, California. I've been living in the United States for about 30 years. Okay. And I work with music and dance and everything. So, yeah. So, and I'm really glad to be here. I was in Cleveland, how long ago? About 20 years ago. And I'm really happy to be able to connect with people down there again. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, I see Ismail is in the meeting too. Ismail, would you like to introduce yourself? Ismail? That's Cleota. Well, while Ismail is not in, let's talk Cleota.
Hey,
Hello,
hey,
Cleota.
how's it going? My name is Cleota McJunkins. I currently reside from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been in the art community a long time. First as a professional dancer, ballet, modern, and martial arts, and as a capoeirista. And I've been in the art community and teaching children all over the world. And capoeira, worked with Cirque du Soleil, Pilates, trained under some of these people in the room, these amazing people. Mestre De Sola, Ana Paula, she actually got me into capoeira, which is amazing when I was a child, and Ishmael and like that. So it's just an honor to be here with you all in this discussion. I love capoeira, love music. Of course, done things with Moises throughout the city, 15, 20 years. Welcome and thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Very nice. Thank you, Cleota. We also have Ana Paula Jones from Raízes da Tradição, a non-profit, a cultural non-profit in Rio de Janeiro. And she, matter of fact, was one of the first people that brought capoeira to Cleveland, and she's in Rio de Janeiro now. Could you say hello, introduce yourself, Ana Paula? Cleota just mentioned you. Your microphone is off, though.
Here, I have a camera and a cell phone. So I want to look to this one. I'm very happy to be here, to be reminded as a woman, as a capoeirista, And I'm very happy to finally be watching Mestre Beisola because I always heard of him. Was a group of some very interesting men that are still my friends up to nowadays. Wayne Chandler, Ismael Douglas, Cleotha, and some kids like Taliesin that was in my class. And I don't know if he's there, but they kept the capoeira alive in Cleveland. And the only master that we knew it like around was Beisola. My master is Mestre Garrincha. Unfortunately, he doesn't speak English, but as always, he blessed me to be here talking about capoeira. I invited also Itapuã Beira-Mar and Nestor Capoeira because in 1994, which was the date that we were studying and bringing capoeira to Cleveland, the only books that I was familiar or were able to look was the Nestor Capoeira master degree, and now he's already has even postdoctor degree, and that's why I invited the Itapuã and Mestre Nestor to be here because it was very interesting because I am an actress originally, and my director asked me, where are you from? Who are your ancestors? And I used to do capoeira, like Beisola just said, when I was 17 at the university, at the school. And then capoeira is something that once you discover, for me, is the beginning of everything. As Brazilian, I can affirm that. It's something that when you discover where's your base, where's your spine, where's your relationship with yourself, with others, with the space, you can start maybe giving another step in life. And capoeira for me is this base of who I am, how I see life, how I react to others, how I react to things that comes to my life. And because of that question, who are you? Where you come from? I start studying the ancestry, my background, and we created a non-profit organization called Raízes da Tradição. And now we have 23 years of existence. We work with traditional masters, not just capoeiristas, but shamans, native Brazilians, and all type of very interesting knowledge and traditional knowledge that are still alive in our culture. So thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here again. And good that we have a woman here to talk about capoeira. Thank you.
Thank you. And speaking of women in capoeira, there's also Laura Branco. Hello, Laura. Laura was one of the first people that I found to practice capoeira with when João Marques was in town helping people to practice. And I was lucky he was my roommate, so I could actually practice at home too. So, Laura, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. Well, it's an honor to belong to this panel with so many interesting characters and representatives of capoeira, which it has been for me. I started off my late teens, and I'm from São Paulo. So for me to be a woman embarking on a capoeira path wasn't an easy one because it was back then even more difficult for women. So that was the first thing I did when I got married. I got married when I was 20. The first thing I did was to enroll in a capoeira school because it felt a little bit like freedom. My father would never allow me to practice because that was not a thing for women and very badly seen. So for me, it was the beginning of finding my identity through a martial arts, through a root system that comes way before this incarnation, I can tell, because it has been really my way to freedom, my way to find my identity living abroad. I was practicing with Moises here, just like trying to still carry that part that started in Brazil. And I was so happy when I found capoeira in Cleveland. And as Ana Paula said, it's what is so natural for the body, is finding your spine, finding your ginga. So I end up taking capoeira to a meditation center while I lived in India as well, and teaching meditation, capoeira, and therapy all together. So it has been a beautiful form for me of reconnecting, finding wounds and healing through capoeira. Its moves, not only the kicks and the esquivas and everything that involves the ritual that we create, the field, the force field we create with clapping, with music. So for me, it has been a well-rounded art form that made me survive in different lands, just reassuring my identity and finding always the strength with the ground, with the soil, that it doesn't have barriers and frontiers, it's basically one. So I was super happy to perform with Moises a couple of times. This was back in 2001. And representing not only this beautiful art form, but carrying Brazilian roots around the globe and be able to share the joy of capoeira. So thank you for having me, Moises.
You're welcome. Thank you for being with us. Also, I'd like to have Ismail to introduce himself. He's one of the very active people in capoeira in Cleveland, and he's always present on the performances, and even some of our presentations, he has been present too. How are you doing, Ismail? Would you like to say
everyone?
Hello? All right.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be on this distinguished panel. It's awesome to see the people who are here. My background is I have a degree in history and religion. And when studying history, I came across this interesting art form called capoeira. And when I saw that, I became very interested in learning it. So I met a gentleman named Wayne Chandler, who introduced me to Master Besola, who I am honored to be connected with. But for me, capoeira is very transformative, right? It allows you to see the power of bringing the invisible into the visible, to create. Capoeira is like jazz to me, improvisation, to be able to create in the moment. How do you navigate through life? That was capoeira's taught me. How can you navigate through difficult situations, making the impossible possible, overcoming obstacles? The philosophy for capoeira is how do you bring your essence into whatever you do, and to bring the best of that at all times. So I don't want to talk a lot because we have a lot of people who like to say, but I'm honored. And capoeira has been so important to me as a musician. I play different instruments, like 5 different instruments that I play right now. So the whole thing of arts and culture with capoeira, to me, is very global. When I was in Istanbul, Turkey, I met a young man teaching capoeira. He was from Denmark, teaching capoeira in Istanbul, Turkey. It shows you the power and transformative essence of the art form we call capoeira.
Thank you. And also we have D. Allen, dentista, that's participating with us. Can you hear us, dentista? Can you introduce yourself? D. Allen? Uh-oh. Can you hear dentista? I don't think he's able to hear. Dentista, can you hear us? Well, not yet. Well, I would like to say thank you to everybody for participating. And one more time, let you know this is event through the Caramu House, and it's sponsored by the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to put this together. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please don't forget to put the like and subscribe to the channel so you can get more notifications about our new videos. And let's then start the panel.
Moises, just a second. Nestor Capoeira is there, and Itapuã Beira-Mar also is there, and they didn't introduce themselves.
Oh, let me see. Okay. Hello,
they
Nestor.
Are here. I'm very honored. I don't even know what to say.
Olá, Nestor Capoeira. Tudo bem?
Oh, tudo bem. Can you hear me?
Now I can. Please introduce yourself. Say a little bit about your experience.
You hear me clearly?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, I I started I'm in Rio de Janeiro just this moment, and I started capoeira in 1965 in Rio with a guy called Mestre Leopoldina. Well, anyway, he died now. He's 13 years. He was 13 years older than myself, and he died a couple of years ago. Then I spent a couple of years with him, and then in '68, I was 22 years old. I went to the Senzala group, which were guys over here in Rio, which was a group of guys. They didn't have a teacher. They didn't have a mestre. They were like self-taught. Né? And I stayed there with them a couple of years till I got my red rope. This was in '69. And in the same year, '69, I graduated as an engineer. I started to work in the light power company here of Rio de Janeiro. And at the same time, I was giving capoeira classes, blah, blah, blah. And there was this hippie thing going all around the world. So in '71, I dropped out, as they used to say at the time. I continued, and I went to England. And I started to give classes there in the London School of Contemporary Dance. And then I started to do this thing, Europe, Brazil, each time I would spend 2 or 3 years in Europe, then I'd come back generally to Rio, stay here 2 years, this sort of ping pong. And during this time, I also wrote a couple of books here in Brazil. And these were published in 9 countries. They're in the States. You're in the States, Moises?
I am. I'm in Cleveland, in the state of Ohio.
Okay. So they're not in Cleveland, but in Berkeley, in California. These guys, you know accordion? Mestre accordion?
I heard about him, but I never had the chance to meet him.
Yeah, he's in San Francisco. He went there. He went to the United States in '75. So he's there, and he already had a book published by these guys called it's in California, but the name of the house is North Atlantic Books. It's a bit bizarre because it's in the Pacific, huh? And well, anyway, so they published 3 books, 3 of my books. That, man, I was very happy. Because
for the books about capoeira specifically?
Yeah, well, yeah. They still sell. It's the Little Capoeira book, and well, I'm 73 now. My memory is not so good now. So it's the Little Capoeira, a street march song, and another one which I don't remember. But they've sold over 60,000 copies up to now.
Wow!
In the States. Yeah, and well, they went, because I was living in Europe, so I managed to get them published in France and Germany and Poland, anyway, 8 countries there. And when I'd come back to Brazil, I also always working like in capoeira plays. Sometimes there was nothing going on. So me and my friends, we set up a little, not exactly a play, but it's more, once or twice we did a play, but mostly it was a presentation. Capoeira, that's a traditional thing. Capoeira, maculelê, puxada de rede, yeah, that's it. And well, and because I had done these 3 books, some guys who started to do master degree and PhD on sociology, anthropology, history, they started to look me up to get some information. And finally, one of them, hey, why don't you try to do a master degree thing? You know, you read a lot and all that. I said, yeah, but I'm an engineer. I would have to go to social. No, if you do communication, it's I don't know how you say it in English. It accepts any guy who is graduated. You simply have to do an exam every day. There's a big exam, like 200 people, I don't know. There's only 20 places each year. And so they told me the books to study. I always like to read, so I studied those books for 1 year or 2. And then I did a master's degree. A couple of years later, I did a PhD on the same communication culture at the Federal University of Rio. And finally, I did the post-PhD. This is in another town, São Paulo, at the Catholic University, because the Federal University of Rio, like they're free, but it's like it's free, but you have to do a tough exam. 2,000 people for 200 places, and if you didn't have to go to good schools, but you can't make it. No? So it's sort of anyone can do it, but has to pass the exam, and only if you went to private schools and all that had a high level of teaching. Anyway, I did this post-PhD, and this was about 2 years ago. And I'm going to do a little marketing. I published this book, which is here is the other side of the cover. You see myself there. Well, first I'm 55 and then 33. I was the hero of a film here called Cordão de Ouro in 1977. And finally there, I'm 52, stretching there in Amsterdam. Well, and now with Itapuã, who is my son, hey, let's do this thing. Moises is going to anyway, I said, yeah, let's do this thing. So here I am. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for participating and joining us all the way from South America, Rio de Janeiro. And let's say hello also to your son, Itapuã, and have him introduce himself. How are you doing, George?
Hello, Moises. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here with you. Thanks, Ana Paula, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here and exchange a bit of our culture with you all from Cleveland. So my name is Itapuã Beramar, as you know. I was born in Capoeira. I'm son of Mestre Nestor. I've been training Capoeira my whole life. I've already graduated master by his school. I'm also a physical therapist, and I have like a big participation in the development of Capoeira videos in the internet. I have the first and the biggest Capoeira channel in the web called aberamar.tv, where it's mainly focused on Capoeira games. And we did some huge projects like Movimento Novo and other things that could contribute a bit to the development of Capoeira all around the world. So it's a pleasure to be here. I already has one long feature film that I've just done with my wife here, a documentary fiction about Capoeira called Capoeira Inside the Game that you can watch on Vimeo and Amazon. And by the invitation of Ana Paula, who's a good friend of mine, I'm here and able to exchange knowledge and talk about my perspective on Capoeira.
Thank you. Let me double check if Dentista is able to speak on his microphone. Is your audio fixed, Dentista? Can you say hello, introduce yourself? No.
No, he's not even here, Moises.
Yes, he's here. I can see he's on. It says Megan, but it's Dentista.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you, everybody. And let's then start talking about some things about Capoeira. So first, I'd like to bring up the idea of how did Capoeira emerge in Brazil? And this is a very broad topic. Maybe we can get a few of the masters to talk about it and move on to the other topics. Otherwise, we have to be here for more than 2 hours. So, Mestre Beissola, would you like to say something about the appearance of Capoeira in Brazil and what made it to become a tool for freedom for the slaves brought from Africa and how they could defend themselves? You can also talk about a little bit of Zumbi and its rebellion.
I think the main thing about Capoeira, the main power of Capoeira is the way that they bring the community together. All right. As you can see here, we have people from all over the world, all different parts of Brazil, different background, but we're all together, you know. So I think that's the thing. For the fact that you work with music and dance, people start after like 2 or 3 years. People doing capoeira, they already get help with other kids. So and that's pretty much. And also the personality of the Brazilians. Like I teach capoeira, music, and dance. And sometimes people ask me about what they do about Brazilian music. I said, no, it's not about Brazilian music. It's about Brazilian people. You know, because all over the world we have good music. India has good music. Africa, different parts of Africa has amazing music, but it's the people. So and capoeira allow us to bring all these things together. For example, I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, Kitungo, Rio de Janeiro, So, and there's a lot of things going on there. Kids, robbing and assault. But because I was doing capoeira, it became like a shield, I could go there, walk in the middle of the gangs, and they respect me, okay? Don't mess with me just because capoeira. Why? Capoeira is music, is dance, is very good for the community. And I think that's the main power that capoeira has. Like for example, right now, I'm interesting because I'm seeing Nestor Capoeira, and I know his work for a long time. And I was really impressed when I saw Itapuã play. I said, "Wow, man! I've been watching you. It's really nice to see how capoeira evolve with different people, different part of the world." Ana, for example, you're very famous. When I come to Ohio, they talk about you all the time, So that things like that. It's not about I think that's a problem we have a few years ago when the MMA started to be big, and then the capoeira wanted to do finalizar and go to the fight. But I think the power of capoeira is the way they bring the community together. For example, because I was capoeirista, I used to travel all over Brazil. I just get a bus, go to São Paulo, stop in São Paulo, go on the square, make a little capoeira. There I got my money, I have place to sleep. I travel all over the world, doing capoeira. But I think that's the power. All the people that involve in capoeira, all of them, I think they're amazing people, every capoeira teacher is doing amazing job all over the planet. All over the planet, in the poor community, in the rich communities, they all come together. When you do capoeira, we don't know who's a doctor. I know somebody, oh yeah, I know this person capoeira roda. I don't know if a gangster is a doctor. I know everybody is just capoeirista. So I think that's the makes capoeira unique. The combination of the Brazilian personality, like for example, this flag idea. When people see a Brazilian flag, they think about soccer, and they see American flag, they think about war. You know what I'm saying? just think about that. The energy that kind of flag and the energy, because anything related to green, yellow is capoeira, samba, is capoeira, is everything. You know what I'm saying? Oh, look, I love it.
I usually print my nails on the green, yellow, blue, because when I play the guitar, it shows on the guitar neck.
That's good. So I think the main power comes from Brazil. It comes from capoeira. It's just the people, It's people, the way that we can interact, work together. And then we have the good recipe, whatever you put, and it grows. And capoeira gives the room for that. We have music, we have dance. All these amazing musicians in Bahia right now, they all start capoeira, they all start capoeira, So, and that thing, I can be he talking forever, about capoeira, but I really appreciate every person that do a ginga, that try to put capoeira together, that is admiration for. So of course we're not perfect, if you look at the capoeira community, you're gonna find problem everywhere, But you know what? Think about a lot of people that say capoeira, they didn't have any school degree. A lot of people are illiterate; they cannot even read and write. So and that's why people really be careful, because we have a lot of problems nowadays. People go there and okay, this person is a capoeira master. Yes, because they're amazing capoeirista, but a lot of other things they didn't have when they grew up. They didn't have a good school. They don't have a lot of. So we need to really be careful in the capoeira world, because we have a lot of problems now to differentiate, like the capoeira teacher or capoeira master. It is a capoeira master because he's developed the life of capoeira, and that is a master in the field. But sometimes the word master really heavy, because a master think absolute. No, I'm a capoeira master, but my students, I'm learning English, I'm learning guitar, I'm learning piano and everything. There I am that student, you know? So it's like, you need to really understand that. Now, sometimes the capoeira master think that, you know, like for example, I have this problem. All the time I see my students not have a capoeira uniform, I feel awkward because they kill the power, you know? We forgot they have a family, they have a kid, everything else. So anyway, but for me, the main thing about capoeira is the combination of what capoeira allows us to do, give it room for everything, and the people, everybody involved, everybody contribute a little bit, not a little bit, a lot, all right? So yeah, it's more than the people than the art. Thank you.
Thank you, Master. Does anyone have a question for Master Beisola? Cleota, your microphone is mute. Maybe you have a
Hello,
question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Do you have a question for Master Beisola?
I just want to say to Master Beisola, me being a person has never been to Brazil. Like, when I think of Brazil and studying capoeira all my life, when I think of Brazil, I think of capoeira and soccer. And like when you think of America, you know, what do they think of? You know, I love the nails, by the way, Moises. I paint my nails Brazilian colors too. But when I think of America, first thing I think of is basketball. You know, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. But the capoeira here and listening to what Master Beisola said, I love it. I like the discipline. The discipline, you know, we all know you can get discipline from many things, from drumming, from music. But with my eyes, what I've seen in my life, the discipline that the capoeira can bring to a community and bringing people together, that's what made me fall in love with capoeira. You know, I haven't been to Brazil, but I'm trained with Master Beisola, worked with Ana Paula. You know, that Ana Paula actually, and as Ismail said, I'm very honored to be on this panel speaking with all these amazing people. I watched Ana Paula as a young kid in Cleveland School of Arts. I've seen the power of capoeira. I watched her with a cast on her foot, actually going from school to school as a young boy. I didn't know much about capoeira. And I watched her get all sorts of people to come together. People who wouldn't work together, people who, so I got to watch that. She was one of the first people, besides a couple other people, that I've seen capoeira, Bill T. Jones, a couple other people, Leilani Barrett in Cleveland. And Ana Paula, it's like, yo, this capoeira is amazing. You know, not only the art, but the smiles on the people's faces, the laughter, not only the dance, not only the music, watching people put together food, let alone put together a dance or this and that. And I don't want to be long-winded, but yeah, I saw Ana Paula, and you know, she told me find Wayne Chandler, Ishmael. You know, I found this man, Wayne Chandler, who I've seen doing capoeira in Cleveland here for like 50 years, and just studied with a couple of those people. So capoeira changed my life. You know, if I didn't want to get into capoeira, like at least 4 people here on this panel, I all met through capoeira. And like one person said, oh, check this out. And I want to say one thing to the one master guy, that little capoeira book, everyone, if you're into capoeira, check that out. I studied that little capoeira book since I was like, I don't know, like 12 years old. But yeah, I'd like to say, and I do have a question for Beisola. I agree with Beisola. The power of the capoeira to bring people together. And me being a person that's traveled the world with Cirque du Soleil and Pilables, and found myself loving to just do capoeira. I love doing capoeira in communities and all around and being a part of it because the discipline is amazing. Like he was saying, doctors could do capoeira, police officers, lawyers, and watching people gain discipline from such amazing art and use that discipline in their life. They're not necessarily, might not be a musician, might not become a great guitar player like Moises, like Beisola, great artists like Ana Paula, all sorts of artists on here. They may become a doctor or lawyer, but that capoeira I've seen, and it's what I love to use. I use hip hop, I use dance, so I love to use and give to the children in a lot of my programs because that discipline definitely transfers over. But thank you.
You're welcome. And what was your specific question for Master Beisola?
Master Besola, where do you see Capoeira now? And where would you like to see Capoeira in the future? I mean, you can pick a specific place. It's kind of a broad question. We talk about that. I talk about that a lot with Dentista Daji here. I talk about that a lot with Ana Paula, like where art form is and its giving place, and like where would you maybe want to see it progress to, you know?
Okay, so that's a good question. To tell you the truth, I don't think I can see capoeira any place else because capoeira is everywhere. I want to go on. There's capoeira in Goa. I want to Saipan, have capoeira in Saipan. You know, there's capoeira in Japan. You know, any corner of the world, you know, there's capoeira. It's amazing because like I'm not that old, but when I started capoeira, you know, when I was like more involved, I was 14. I was like, no. Oh, I'm getting old. 45 years ago. I'm 62 now. At that time, like if you go in Rio de Janeiro, we just see like 5 matches. You could tell everybody, you could count your hands how many matches we know, you know, at those times. Now, like 5 in Rio de Janeiro, maybe a little bit more in Salvador, you know, 5 in Bahia. Nowadays, man,
a million masters everywhere.
You know, 200-300 capoeira masters all over the world. I think my main thing is I'm really impressed how capoeira has developed, evolved all over the world. Since for me, it's not. I don't know. There's no place I want to see anymore. Of course, capoeira is an art. It's going to continue to evolve, you know, in different ways and different, you know, forms, you know. And yeah, I'm really happy. You know, it's beyond capoeira is beyond. I think beyond everybody's expectation. You know, so capoeira went beyond everybody's expectation. Every like for example, I went back to Rio now. I'm here in the United States for 30 years. I went back there. When I came here, I was like 29 years old. I left the group behind, and I thought the group was gonna die. My group in Brazil is Capoeira Besouro, and a lot of people know. No, I know the top one knows because they are troublemaker in Rio de Janeiro. Mestre Sardinha, all these guys. So we know, you know. So anyway, I go back right now in Brazil. It's amazing. Every corner of Rio de Janeiro, there is some things like related to culture. I have some students on that. If you go to Portela, there is Capoeira Besouro on there. If you go to Mangueira, has some people not only teach capoeira, doing dance, and like. But one thing that I really like, I'm really surprised. Oh no, that they're being like back different cultures. They research about dance and music. But one thing that I really caught my mind, you know, I share with you guys this day. I went back there about 6 months ago, and Mastel did the event in Mangueira. You know, he teaches like Mangueira, and he has a panel, and where he invites 3 lawyers, you know, and to talk about women's violence, you know. And I do have that. I can even share that with you guys. So it's like how people should deal with that, you know. Respect, but the one was like delegada. I don't know how to say delegada in English, maybe sheriff, you know. Another one social worker. So it's 3 lawyers, you know. One is was a judge, and they come to a capoeira event to talk to the capoeira people how we should, you know, turn your mind around how we should treat women in capoeira. And that was amazing. And the event was the whole class was taught by the girls, you know. One girl taught the maculele, India. She taught maculele, and it was just run by. And then they have this class now, like they have once a year. They have the capoeira event, and all organized by women. The guy can help, but they cannot give any opinion. So in that openness of minds, it's just amazing when people start to see it. You know, like you know, a lot of capoeira. Like for example, I have a problem. Well, not a problem, but something I have in the group. I have a lot of masters that really famous, Sardinha, you know, always comes, you know. But who's organizing his school was his wife. No way his school's gonna be big unless his wife on the background, talk to the student, make sure that everybody's fine. And now when the people that open the eyes for that, the power of the woman in capoeira, and people like not only talk about, but people like having initiative, like going there and doing that. It's really good. And I was really glad to see that in my group in Brazil, a whole bunch of macho men, everybody, but people respect us. A lot of women doing amazing capoeira, teaching everything. So that's why I want to really see capoeira. I don't want to see things happening, like that's why I say every single day I'm got surprised. When I go to Brazil now, it's amazing. Everybody's doing amazing things capoeira, Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that's my long question, short answer. So what I want to see capoeira. Capoeira is surprising me. It's going beyond expectation in all areas.
Thank you very much, Mestre Beissola. Nestor, você pode escutar? Mestre Nestor.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. We can hear you.
I'm having some problem with the mute thing. So if I go out, I have to mess around here a little bit, okay?
Would you like to, yeah, we can hear you well now, and when you're not talking, you can mute the microphone.
Okay.
Would you like to tell us something about what you think of how capoeira emerged in Brazil right in the beginning?
Well, yeah, like you said, Ned, this has been discussed for, I don't know, even when I was learning in the 60s, there were already people discussing about this, because even Mestre Bimba and Mestre Pastinha, Mestre Bimba was the guy who created that capoeira regional in the 30s, more or less. And Mestre Pastinha was the guy who was maybe the most important guy in Capoeira Angola, which was the traditional capoeira and all that. For example, Mestre Pastinha had a song that said, capoeira veio da África, africana é quem lutou. Capoeira came from Africa. Africans were the ones who fought capoeira. Who used to fight capoeira. And Bimba, on the other hand, he would say, the slaves, the Negroes, were Africans, but capoeira was born here in Salvador. He's from Bahia, so here
I'm
in
from Bahia. Yeah, I'm from Bahia.
Both of them. You're from Bahia.
Salvador. Yeah. I'm from Salvador too.
Okay. And the Recôncavo Baiano, those cities there by the sea, those boats going there all the time. And and since then, there are many, some say that the Capoeira Angola, that is practiced today in Brazil, is exactly like a capoeira that existed in Africa 500 years ago. And some even say that it came directly from the Ngolo, Ngolo. Some people believe that. Others, like Bimba, believe that the slaves came from Africa, of course. Here in Brazil, I have some data, but I'm not sure if these data are correct. Approximately 20 million Africans were captured and brought to slavery, mostly in North America, the Caribbean Sea, and Brazil. And to Brazil specifically came 4 million slaves during since 1500 to when the thing of capoeira was the thing of slavery was abolished. I think it was 1888 or something like that. During these 300 years, and they came from different parts. So other people believe that the birimbau comes from one region. The Ngolo, there's a guy from Angola called Albano Neves de Souza. He was an anthropologist and all that. This is in the 50s. So he was one of the guys who thought that, oh, I have seen the Ngolo and all that. And I think, and he also was an artist. He was very good at drawing. He came to Brazil, I think, in 1952 to get to know Brazilian culture and all that. He was very much into the candomblé, which is Afro-Brazilian religion. And he had some drawings of this Ngolo, all these guys standing on their feet and giving some kicks, standing upside down. And well, so some people think it came directly from this Ngolo. Other people think that the Ngolo and the birimbau and other types of fighting styles from different areas of Africa also came in. There, in slavery, I don't know if this is legend or is true, but they say that the guys who brought the slaves, the white society, they prefer to have slaves from different origins. That thing that separate to conquer, no? Because many of these guys already in Africa, they were not friends, or they did not know each other and all that. So it was easier to keep them. If they brought all the slaves they had from the same region, they would be anyway. So there's all these things. I myself, the thing that I have read about, some guys are very radical to one side, some guys are very radical to the other. What I believe is that there were different cultural manifestations of African culture here. The drawings that we have from 1834, for example, this drawing here, this picture is from a guy called Rugendas, a German guy who was here in Brazil in 1834. And this became very famous, this drawing in the Capoeira circles. You see that the guy who is under that palm tree playing music, he's not playing a birimbau. He's playing a atabaque drum. He's sitting on the drum and playing, yeah? And at the same, here is the thing of the Ngolo. This Albano Neves de Souza guy, these are some of the drawings that he brought. He was in Pastinha's Academy. He did a beautiful drawing of Mestre Patin and of two guys coming out of the. But anyway, só 10 minutinhos aqui. And there are other guys who have pictured some people playing birimbau here in Brazil. It was another guy, a French guy called Debré here. This is from the drawing above. No? The drawing beneath, this is the burial, is also from this French guy, Debré. These are just I'll put again. The guy playing, no, well, anyway, I've lost.
Deu para ver, muito interessante. Por favor, continue.
So, when Rugendas drew this thing, he published his book. He was German, but he published it in France in 1835. It's called Voyage Pittoresque au Brasil, I think. And Debré publishes in 1825 in France as well. And but Rugendas, who did that drawing of those two guys with their fists clenched, he gives a description of the capoeira game, he does not mention the berimbau. His description is that the guys used to jump to one side and to another in a very artistic way. And the main thing that they used were headbutts, you know, pô, cabeçada, né? And that sometimes one of these champions, he called them champs, would hit his friend head to head. And they started discussing, and many times knives would come in, blooding the scene. So, and he does. So this is Rujan, this human guy describing what he saw in this drawing here. Né? So in Rio de Janeiro is the drawing. And so that capoeira, that he was here, I think 5 or, I don't know, but 5 or 10 years maybe. So this capoeira that he saw, that he witnessed, was very rude, was very violent, because if you look here, some of the guys, some of the Africans, it's too small, you're not going to be able to see it, I think. Yeah. Where my finger is, no, it's on the other side. This African guy, which is a slave, he's wearing a knife. Many of them, they have this guy, negro de ganho, which the owners of these guys, they sent them out in the morning, they could do whatever they wanted. Some were barbers, others were selling stuff, and they had to come back at night, bring a certain amount of money. So these guys, they had this knife to, for example, he was selling oranges, né? We had to peel the orange and all that. So it's, anyway, I'm talking too much.
No, you're not. If you would like to share any link about your work, about your movies and books, or a website, please feel free to share with us here on the chat before you have to go. It looks like your wife wants you.
I have to do something very quick here, but I'm going to come back. Okay. It's this. This, I think, may interest some of you. Unfortunately, it's only in Portuguese. This is the 3rd year that I created a course focusing the history and the philosophy of capoeira, mostly with very solid documents that not specifically I dug them out. Other guys who have written wonderful books like Matias Assunção, Fred Abreu, that guy from Bahia in 1968, Valdeluí Rego. These are historians and they research. So I used the information that these guys had, and I put them all in the chapters. I wrote this, the book there. It's 1800 to 150 is the different chapters. So I built this course by the internet, which it's free. You inscribe yourself, and every week I send to you some videos, short videos of 3 minutes, 5 minutes, with different topics. For example, 1800 to 1850. We have the Perseganga. It was a ship where the guys were, the African guys who were captured playing capoeira were arrested, and they stayed there but together with hoodlums, bandits, and political prisoners from the wars in the south of Brazil, in the Plata with Argentina and Uruguay, that sort of thing. And it was really like they change experiences there and all that. So each of these videos talk a little bit about this. And the texts are the text of this book, and also of three, but then is more books for somebody who is really researching theory and all that thing. They are on Amazon. It's a trilogy. It's more or less 500, 600 pages each book. Then it's really a lot of information. This one that I have here is like the highlights of this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the way to do this, the site is www. Escola Capoeira Nestor. Escola, you write E-S-C-O-L-A. Escola Nestor Capoeira.
Nestor Capoeira. E esse grupo Senzala também, tá? Você que é o fundador do grupo.
Não, eu não sou fundador de lá. I'm not one of the founding members. When I went there in 68, the group exists already since 1963. They were 5 years old, which at that time, man, we were young, was a long time. The guys who are still alive, who founded it, are Gato, Gil Velho. They're all my age, 70, 73, 74. Gil Velho. Garrincha and Sorriso were 10 years younger. They were kids then. Somebody said that was a pupil of Garrincha.
Peixinho também, não?
Peixinho, Camisa.
No, but
Camisa
then,
roxa.
No, they came later. Peixinho.
Camisa roxa?
Camisa roxa, no. The one who came to Senzala is his younger brother. Camisinha. What was called Camisinha.
Camisinha,
Yeah, now I met Camisa. He only came to Senzala 72. When I got there in 68, he wasn't there. He arrived 4 years later. He came from Salvador with his brother, Camisa Roxa, who had that group, Tropical, Brasil Tropical, né?
Yes.
He died Camisa Roxa
now
a couple of years ago, né? And he was a couple of years older than me. Camisa is 9 years younger. But then Camisa came in 72, and he was there in Senzala from 72, I think to, I'm not sure, I think to 86. Anyway, 1990, I remember he was already out of the group and he founded Dabada. And anyway, his group, I think Major is the largest one, and it has some incredible...
88. Camisa left Senzala at 88.
88, né? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but the founders were these guys. Gato, Gil, Peixinho. Peixinho came in 66, 67. Garrincha.
What about Lua?
Lua Rasta. Lua Rasta already, when he came from Salvador, he said he learned capoeira in the streets, but his reference was Mestre Caiçaras. There was a time I used to go, I think I'm not sure, I met a Beisola, of course, in Rio. It was, but this was maybe 40 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah, 40.
40 years ago. I don't remember, because if it was you had a lot of hair.
Can I say something? When you talk about berimbau, there's something I want to share with you, because we talk about the history of berimbau. I did a show in Guam. I went to Guam. Guam is an island like the end of the world, like close to Japan. And then I was doing a show, and I was doing berimbau or capoeira, and then for some reason people was look at me a certain way, and then in the end, they came to me and said, "Why you came to Guam like that?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What do you mean like that?" So what happened is I have shave my head, have like a ponytail on the back because I'm a Hare Krishna, have a ponytail on the back, and I was playing berimbau. So what I discovered is in Guam they have berimbau, okay, and the name of the berimbau is called Biribatuza. Biribatuza means berimbau de barriga, belly berimbau, the same name that we have for the berimbau, you know, they have. Biribatuza means berimbau de barriga, or belly berimbau. In Guam, and there's just one old guy, probably dead now, because that was like 25 years ago, and I do have a video when the city was paying him to teach the kids because they believe their instrument is only from Guam. So they don't want the culture to get lost. But the way that they don't play like us. They put the berimbau sideways, and they move chun, 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 back and forth. They have the melody of the berimbau, you know. So they're surprised because in Guam there's a king, there's a very famous king that should go to conquer other islands, and the king was also a bowhead with a ponytail. So when you saw it with a bowhead with a ponytail, they said, "Who is this guy?" They look like, "Who is this guy?" So another thing too, another thing I want to share. One day I was in Rio, and then I said, "Man, I should write a book about capoeira history." And then somebody came to me. He was a book writer. I don't know, remember. He said, "Look, you don't need to write a book about the history. You are making the history, So, and I'm really glad because now my daughter, she just graduates, finished her PhD in African study. If you want to research her name is Celina Dessa. Very simple. Celina Dessa. Okay. And what she graduates anthropology, talk about capoeira coming back from Africa. So capoeira left. She went to Senegal. She lived in Senegal she was going to Senegal every year for like 3 months, and then she lived there for almost 2 years, and she just finished. So now she's doing African study. So if you research her name, you're gonna find, And now it's good for me because I didn't know all the study, and she's doing now in a totally different level. So if you like do a little study, people I can send you the link. If I knew about that, what this meeting was gonna be, I was gonna put her in the panel because she can talk a lot about. She'll like graduate UPenn, Now she's gonna go to different university. But anyway, so she knows a lot about all the history about capoeira because that was she's been doing. So she's a doctor, in African study and based on capoeira. So because of her, I went to Senegal, and she knows every corner of Africa. So if you guys have any question, she's been travel all over, So it's gonna be a good, and that's what I talk about. Cleopa's first question, what expect capoeira? I never expect my kids gonna be doing African study, even though all my kids does capoeira. So anyway, I just want to talk about this thing about berimbau because it's really important. I still have the video, about the capoeira, about the berimbau. So it's good to know. Also, there is I think it's also YouTube. There's a group on India that plays berimbau. I used to have the video. It's like, I don't know, because they don't look like India, they're like black, they don't look like the Indian people, but also the berimbau that they play is green, it's like the berimbau, the cabaça is still green when they use it, and they don't use the brown, and because they don't use the brown, it's interesting because when you play berimbau, when you touch the brown, so the berimbau is like not even like half of the piece. So it's really hard. And one day somebody told me, "Oh, why capoeira sing out of tune?" And I understood why, because when you play berimbau, it's between. It's not even half. No, meio tone. It's not even like half of the pitch. Yeah. So anyway, but they play. I'm gonna see if I can get this video as well, and I can share with you guys later. So they also have the berimbau. So you can see the berimbau in Guam. You can see the berimbau in India. You can be all over the world. It's amazing, Anyway, sorry I cut your cut, but since you mentioned about berimbau, I want to share that with you because it's amazing to fight berimbau in Guam with the same name, biribatuza, berimbau de barriga, belly berimbau.
I just want to say that group in India, I've done some research on them. They are from Africa. Also, I just posted on my Facebook page the berimbau, instrument similar to the berimbau in Zambia. And also you'll find a very similar instrument among the Zulus in South Africa and also in Senegal. A lot of the stuff is on YouTube, so you can see that.
Okay.
I found that interesting too and heard that information before. And and seeing a bunch of different cultures saying, they've had the betting bow first or this and that. But I think it's amazing the many different cultures who have the betting bow,
Obrigado pela sua participação nessa questão, mestre Beissola. Mestre Nestor, acho que você é o primeiro mestre que tem doutorado em capoeira.
No, that's Mestre Cobrinha.
No?
That's
Cobrinha?
Mestre Cobrinha, Mestre Cobra Monta. I'm glad you mentioned about that because one thing about Cobrinha was amazing. We grew up together. I live in Penha and he lives in Caxias, and we all got together. It was like, Master Dentinho, I'm from my master Toro, and he's, he started a different master, forgot about it. I'll remember later. But he was pretty much him, Borges, they all like pretty much street kids, they're really street kids. And they used to make money by just performing the street. So, and then me and Cobrinha had very, very long history. I'm not going to be talking a lot. Have a chance to. So anyway, because we do capoeira in the streets. I'm from Penha. Everybody knows about Roda de Caxias. So that's where everybody meets. Roda de Caxias and also Roda da Penha. So Cobrinha, he's one of those kids. And then later on, he had the opportunity to travel abroad. He works Oba-Oba, but he's still in the streets doing capoeira. Then later on, he went to Belo Horizonte and to move to Salvador. And one day, one guy, he went to college for physical education. One guy saw him in the university. He said, "Look, are you that guy from the street?" He said, "Yeah, I'm the same guy in the street." So he still makes his money in the streets and still went to college. And today he's a doctor in capoeira. I think that's amazing, That's really, really amazing. A little street kid, no support, He's like, and that's why I told you about what capoeira does, to everybody. But he's the one that's a doctor. I said, my daughter is a doctor. My daughter is Celina de Sá. A lot of people, I just talk about advertising. I have a website called brasivedas.com. Brasivedas, because as I told you, I'm Hare Krishna. I like to mix culture together. Vedas means the Vedic knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all these things. So I make a combination of Brasi, not com Z, no L, Brasi Vedas. All right. So in my website, just down. If that's too confused to remember, I have Brazil CA, like Brazil, California, Brazil CA, BrazilCA.com. And I just put that together because Ismael asked me to do this online class. I'm not teaching like here for like years, even though I taught in Stanford, but my students teach down there. And then just because I connected with Ismael, I got so excited, so I put my website back together. So if you guys want to take a look, And also, a lot of people got benefits because now my group in Japan didn't know how to connect me. Now I'm gonna have online class with people in Japan, and we're gonna guide about this panel. So it's good how the world is like changing, No, it's BrazilCA.com or BrazilVedas.com. That's my website.
Oh, very, very nice. Thank you for your input. Speaking of Brazil, USA, and India, I just came back from India. I was there with Laura, and she has a question for Mestre Nestor. And please, Laura, go ahead with your question before this man vanishes.
I want to speak very briefly because I'm just so entertained by watching this cobra criadas in capoeira, and that's for me mind-blowing. I read Mestre Nestor. I am a student of Mestre Camisa, and that's where I practiced for 20 years, and I actually transited out of capoeira into, like Beissola mentioned, I'm so happy to hear there's another connection with India and capoeira and Brazil, because that's my reality as well, bringing meditation. And in that sense of life lesson, talking about the Gita, who gives us knowledge and all this, Mestre Nestor, what will be, and this extends to the other capoeiristas too, what will be a life lesson? I know there are many, but what will be a life lesson that capoeira has taught you and that has like infallible in your life, like something that really set up like this north on your compass, like Capoeira gave you for living life? What would be one?
Good question. Good question.
Well, okay. Well, the way that I see it, and that the things that I have been studying this last 15 years mostly, on top of the things that the ideas that I had before, is how there was a very strong capoeira movement here in Rio de Janeiro in the 1800s. And when the Brazilian Republic was proclaimed in 1890, the chief of police, a guy called Sampaio Ferraz, his nickname was the Steel, how do you call that little beer that you have here?
Goat.
Yeah, the
goatee.
Goatee. The steel goatee was his. Anyway, he had the president told him, oh, you can arrest anybody without any of the things that the judge and all that. But anyway, so he disrupted completely these capoeira maltas, as they call them, of the 1800s. And the capoeira guys, the one who survived this persecution in the 1910, 1920, they sort of spread around in the cities. And I believe that these guys were the ones who gave birth to what came to be the malandro, is the street smart, but is not a street smart which is robbing. It's more a guy who was originally a tough guy, and then I don't know if they had influence from Afro-Brazilian religions or philosophy, I don't know exactly, but they started to have all these ideas that they put in the letters of the samba. Samba is the most popular music that we have in Brazil. Né? So since 1820 on, you have these samba de malandro, the malandro sambas, which talk about several subjects like money, jobs, society, police, women, love affairs, and many of them, they have this funny thing that many of these sambas, né? They say like, cavalo tem muito, São Jorge é o só. There are many horses, but only one Saint George. The Saint George is that saint of the Catholic Church that he comes mounted in a white horse with a lance, and he's killing the dragon. So, but the thing is that Saint George, it is symbiosis, syncretism. It's syncretized to Ogum, which is in Rio, because in Salvador, you're from Salvador, né, Moises?
Correto, eu sou de Salvador. Yes, I'm from Salvador.
In Salvador, Ogum is syncretized with Santo Antônio. There comes the music. Santo Antônio pequenino é meu santo protetor. Cabra você não me assombra, na capoeira eu sou doutor. Little Saint Antônio is my protective saint. Dude, you don't make me fearful because I'm a doctor in capoeira. I say that I was a doctor and Beisola's, but the thing is to be a doctor in capoeira. Né? So, but the thing of the malandro that I think they say this, that cavalo tem muito, São Jorge é um só, which means we are many in capoeira. Now they say we are in 150 countries. These are official data of the Brazilian government. 150, over 150 countries. Some people say we are 50 teachers, 50,000 teachers and masters in Brazil and 8,000 abroad. And We are all horses. The St. George dá algumas, pastinha, bimba, caiçaras, canjiquinha, leopoldina. These guys who are gone and who made this passage, this, how do you call going from one situation to another? This
transition.
This transition. They were the ones who enabled capoeira to make this transition from the period of slavery and all that to the period where it starts to go into society, paying the price of losing many of its original characteristics, because it had to do this. It was through the academies, né? The Academia de Capoeira Regional of Mestre Bimba. In 1951, the Academia of Mestre Pastinha. So, and you see Mestre Pastinha, his thing is the name of SECA, Centro Esportivo de Capoeira Angola, Sporting Center of Angola Capoeira. Well, sport is not exactly African. Sport is more a European thing. But at those times, they had to disguise the thing in order to not be so much persecuted by the police. And other similar arts to capoeira, like, for example, the most similar one that I've heard of is the one in Ládia. Itapuã, de onde é que é Ládia? You remember?
Martinica.
Martinica. It is from Martinica. They were going on until 1930, 1940, when that first big transition came, when the radio came out and the values of society changed a lot. All of the Lodge of Martinica, and in Cuba, they had one, I don't remember the name, and they had in several islands, mostly similar. Not, they didn't have berimbau, but they were done to drums, but they had different groups and they had specific magic things too. And it was a dance practice with many kicks. And so all of this disappears because the new generations after the 30s with the radio, no? And even more after the 1950 with the television, was an entire new society. Like now, since 1990 with the internet, we have gone into another cycle, which we don't know where it's going to end or how it's going to be. Anyway, I'm sorry, you have to say to me, hey, that's enough. I have a tendency to speak too much.
It was very rich. You're very rich on information. Thank you very much. I'd love to hear Itapuã talking a little bit as well about Naja de Martinica, maybe João Grande, João Pequeno, women in capoeira, and the collaboration of different ethnicities for the capoeira art too. Do you want to say something, Jorge Itapuã?
Hi, Moises. Yeah, let's say that about the Martinica, I had the pleasure to meet in one of Mestre Cobra Mansa's event, Permangola. I met a guy from Martinica who brought the Laja, and we could practice a bit. It's really, really, really similar to capoeira. It's kind of, it's more like there is, but it's really, it could be like a different, a capoeira from a different part of Brazil, let's say that, because Brazil is so wide. So definitely this is and you will never, like, I've been to Africa already, Senegal and Gambia, like a couple of times, and you will find similarities. You will find similarities, but for as exactly as we're seeing or we've been doing here in Brazil, I haven't seen nothing exactly. So it gives me this idea that the origins of capoeira, it's something that was with roots in African roots, but made in Brazilian soil. And so this, but what I believe also is like capoeira keep developing. And now it's one thing that's important. The capoeira that we are doing today, it's totally different from the capoeira I was doing 30 years ago. Like capoeira in Rio 30 years ago was really violent. And Mestre Nestor and Mestre Beisola can tell better. I was young at that time, but the capoeira had the moment, according to the moment of the society, capoeira established themselves in a way that it can survive, like it's kind of natural surviving instinct. Something that we even train this when we are in the roda as individual, but as a community, as a culture, capoeira is being disguised. So I want to keep this idea of the oranges because I was born and I heard when I was young that capoeira was a fight disguised in dance to not making not the landlords realize that the slaves were training in the senzala. But that's kind of a folklore that we learn. And there is two sides of this story. One side that there is the side that brings us to this disguising capacity, the trickiness of the malandro, the malandragem. It's true, but historically, there is no way that you could dance in the senzala at all. So you could not dance even, not training for fight and or even dance. You could do anything in senzala that could give an idea that you will be connecting together. That's my father said, that Nestor said. They were trying to split them all because when you put a lot of people to work hard for free, not being paid in a really hard situation, it will have a riot. So how are you going to slow down the riot? Making people not getting together, not talking, not different language. So, but another way around, in the 30s, when Bimba, as Nestor said, Bimba disguised the capoeira in a fight, and he called Luta Regional Baiana, even took it off the name capoeira in the beginning, and it was allowed to, after a long period, like forbidden in the constitution, it was allowed to be practiced in a gym with the police permit. So as a fight, it was allowed it. So as a folklore dance, it was something like not, but as a fight. And I heard from Mestre Acordeon, Mestre Americano, Muniz Sodré, many others from Salvador that they, as a teenager, the word was like, you want to learn how to fight? Go to Mestre Bimba. So so people were training capoeira in the 50s in Salvador to learn how to fight. And then when you get there, they learn about the culture itself, because Bimba was already a big fighter. So for me, it's more the other way around. Capoeira, it was a dance disguised in fight. And then when you get to the 70s here in the Rio, capoeira was really violent. And you know, Abadá, Senzala, they put this like, you can be like a monster, and you see a lot of people using steroids and like kicking each other. Like, this was the vibe of capoeira from the 70s to the 90s. And then at a certain point, I'm from this generation that we don't want this anymore. And then with the regrowing of the Capoeira Angola movement mixing up, we start to see capoeira as Mestre Beisola said, as a moment to create communities. And then if you want to create community, you cannot fight. You need to do what? Have fun. You need to vadiação. So you recover from before Bimbas at the Barracão de Valdemar. So the thing is, capoeira is always changing. And now we have capoeira in Israel, in India, Russians training hard every day capoeira and bringing things in America and Europe. So capoeira it's always changing. So so that's why when anyone asks me the origins of capoeira, that's so complex question, I like to answer as Mestre Russos Fukashi answered once in a TV show that I was beside him, and it was so quick and it was so smart here. Where capoeira came from? And then he looked to the reporter and said, from the soul of the people. Because it doesn't say too much in historical way, but it say a lot in humanity and way. So, and then through this to conclude, like I'm a student of Nestor, and Nestor taught me since the beginning that capoeira was a feminine entity. So even though it was really rough and tough, even me, because I came from a street fight background. I'm from MMA generation. I saw the MMA growing in my streets. And this is Rio de Janeiro, Rickson Gracie family background. So I was there. And then when I really decided to train capoeira with my father and like became like professional, first thing that my father said, oh, listen, this is not a fighting roda. This is roda de capoeira is not for fighting. Capoeira is for getting contact with people, to dance, to play, to sing. And I, as a fighter, I realized that capoeira was developing my feminine side. I was more into dance and to be more subtle, to be more feminine, more yin in the essence of the energy. So instead of kicking the head, like swiping, no, instead of blocking, dodging. So that's why I believe that capoeira has a lot to grow through the empowerment of the women in capoeira. And little by little, thanks to the American community, European community, that they have a different social background for women already because of feminist revolution. Brazil is starting also, and now we're starting to have some first main references, women capoeira playing really hard, playing as good as men. So I believe that's a lot to grow when you have more women ruling capoeira for sure. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, George. Women in capoeira is a great topic. We have Laura that did capoeira in Cleveland. Want to say something about women in capoeira, Laura, in a form of therapy?
Well, there was one event for, speaking of events that are coordinated by women. So there is this feminine encounter every year at the Sembi, which is the center for Mestre Camisa, beautiful place in the hills near Rio. And it's really impressive to see the power of women, how they organize, how they compose music, how they're running festivals. And the entire I was on the second one. I was a guest to bring back, I just returned from India, living in India for 3 years, and seeing women really taking what Itapuan just said about being more the receptive, the creative, and accepting. For the first time, I brought a work where I saw women crying. I remember one passage, having 2 capoeiristas sisters from Rio, and one of them, by the end of the vivencia, this girl comes in and she said, "What have you done? I've never seen my sister crying." And it was impressive because it was the playfulness of capoeira. It is the allowance of creativity, is this revival of the inner joy that is not only the fighting, but the whole thing that it encompasses. And definitely the role of women to soften and bring that quality of receptivity, of accepting, is not arguing back, but is accepting what is coming to you and how can I respond and how can I build this playfulness with each other. So beautifully said by Itapuan, that thank you for endorsing that you learned from your father, which is another wise man that said that capoeira is feminine. And I personally transitioned from capoeira 6 years ago because I got back to Brazil and I kept seeing violence and that attitude of especially women being even tougher than men. So I would play with the guys and I would receive much more inclusion from men. I have 2 older brothers, so I learned how to play with men, with boys, but the girls were really tough. So really seeing this shift now where feminism, but also the softening of women and softening the capoeira and bringing in also when we need to be warriors, when we need to be tough, but having that space where you finish a game or something, you're still building and connecting and creating bridges with each other. So I find amazing musicians, amazing players, and developers of the social what is to say organization-wise, how many women stand behind their capoeiristas men to help them build their tribe, their community. So there is a sense that the women were always there, but now this exposition, this allowance for women to come forth and be the forefront of capoeira is really important to empower this multi-level that capoeira enables people to wake in themselves. So yeah, I'm happy to be part of it. I'm really happy to know capoeira from inside my heart and be able to play and to connect and to survive through capoeira too.
Mm-hmm. Obrigado, Laura.
Thank you.
This video is going to be available on YouTube. So you guys, please feel free to speak your hearts out. If you're hearing, listening to this and watching on YouTube, please click on the like, subscribe to the channel so you can have more notifications. And speaking of women in capoeira, there's also Ana Paula that's a great source of information. And I was wondering if Ana Paula want to say something about women in capoeira, or maybe speaking of the different races and how they contribute to, you know, the rise of something different or some different styles of capoeira. Okay, I will unmute you. Don't worry. Hold on. This one is...
Yes, now.
Okay, there you go.
Well, I'm very touched and very inspired since the first question to Beisola and then to Mestre Nestor. The first, and of course, Itapuã. I'd like just to share with you guys that I was neighborhood of Itapuã all my childhood for 18 years when I left home to go to Cleveland. So for me, Nestor was always a reference because when I was 19 and my mother, I asked my mother to help me how to teach Cleveland, teach capoeira in Cleveland, was when my mother sent the book of Nestor. And then, of course, I was doing capoeira with Garrincha in PUC, in the Catholic University, but it was very important that my reference with Nestor and Itapuã. So I'm very touched because it has, you know, when you drop a lot of coins with all these answers. And one thing that I'd like to add in this melting pot about Brazil and about the first questions, like how capoeira rised or born. I have been studying because of Raymond Bobgan and Masoud Saipur from Cleveland, because they asked me where I'm from, where I came from, like who were my ancestors. And then I came back to Brazil in 1998 and started studying rituals. I went to all the candomblé houses that you can imagine, all the native tribes that I could, to find who I am, who I was, who was my ancestors. And the interesting thing for me about Brazil is this fourth thing. When he asked me, who are you, where you came from? I just said something from the books. I said, I am indigenous, I am African, I am European. But he asked me, where you come from? Who are your ancestors? Who is your grandmother? Who is your grandfather? And this is the difference. After 7 years, I went finally to a candomblé house in São Paulo. I never thought about São Paulo, to a candomblé house, because I had been to Maranhão, to Pernambuco, to Bahia. And I heard Zambi Umpungo. And then I fell down in my knees and started crying because this made a lot of sense to me. This was God in Congo, Angola, in Bantu tradition, Central Africa. Of course, these houses specifically, they also received the spirits of the indigenous people, the caboclos. So for me, there was a shifting point, like Itapuã just said, was a difference of a cycle and another cycle. When I understood that different tribes from Africa, different indigenous cultures from at least 1,000 different cultures. And of course, when you talk about Pernambuco, you have almost 30 years of Dutch people there, not just the French, but the Portuguese and the Spain. So the difference for me is when you understand that it's Brazilian, when you are the mixture of all these different people who by chance, we don't know, we can say that slavery was a good thing for us as humanity, but what left for us as human beings is that I am this mestiça, I am this mixture. I did recently the test, the DNA test, the ethnical DNA test, and I have 10 different ethnicity groups in my DNA. So I am this mixture. That's what makes me Brazilian. And for me, when Beisola says, Messer Neto says, it's exactly like for me, capoeira is Brazilian because the capoeira in Bahia is one capoeira, in Pernambuco is another capoeira, in Maranhão is another capoeira, in Rio is another capoeira, because in each one of us is an our interpretation or our inside and outside, like Macunaíma, who will eat what comes from outside. He calls about amalgama, and he defects a different thing. Each one of us in contact with capoeira will make our own capoeira. So that's why, Laura, your capoeira is so feminine and so receptive, because maybe you are like that. And sometimes maybe of this woman is suffering or has a tough situation and they have to fight. For each one of us, capoeira will serve for a determined or moment of our lives.
It's medicine, no? It's medicine, is the medicine
healing,
you need.
medicine,
yes.
It's like be beaten by a snake, like the shamans who are beaten for several times by the snake, they conquer the venom, so the poison, and this became their strength. So for me, capoeira is this, what is very Brazilian, because when we talk about candomblé, for instance, just as an example, or even if we talk about maracatu, or if we talk about Congada and Mozambique, which is a lot of information that I'm talking here, because each one of them is a cultural living Brazilian expression, like capoeira, maracatu, Bumba Meu Boi from Maranhão, because Bumba Meu Boi from Pernambuco is totally different. So when you have this chance, I mean chance because it's so rich, if you have access to these masters like Beisola and Nestor, people that you feel they are a tree of knowledge. Each one of them has so much things to teach because it's through oral tradition. So I still look into all my friends in Cleveland who are looking at us right now. You who do capoeira for 20, 30 years, you change everything once you come and touch the sacred land, which is Brazil, because this is another place, it's another reference, it's another truth. And it's like, if you're really serious about it, like learn who you are, discover where you come from, and try to follow where you should go. And this means for me, like all the cultural living expressions of Brazil is this mixture. And it's a four things is Brazilian. It's not African anymore. It's not indigenous anymore. It's not European anymore. It's Brazilian, but it's totally European. It's totally indigenous, and it's South African. I don't know if it's something that we could talk for hours, but it's very important to put this little pulga in your ear, like you'll never. One phrase that you said to be try to be synthesized. I remember Garrincha when I was 18, 19. He told me, "You're never gonna teach capoeira to nobody. What you do is like you create the atmosphere, you do the roda, you play the song, and you learn capoeira through doing capoeira." So for me, this is the whole philosophy behind the thing. Like Itapuan brought one phrase, like you learn capoeira through doing. And we as point porters, and in some moment maybe you become a master, you do the atmosphere, you do the roda, and you learn there inside of the roda. So that's what I'd like to bring for you guys. Study more, study Brazil, study the different states, the different cultural living expressions. It's not just capoeira. We have so many incredible others. I brought my husband here from Pernambuco. He is teaching different cultural Brazilian rhythms. And also, if you want to learn capoeira through the music, because it's also a way of learning. I know a little bit of the work of Itapuã, for instance. He's totally in the body. Fabio is totally in the sound. So Nestor probably is maybe totally in the stories that he has to share with us. If you met Nestor one day in the streets of Leblon in Rio de Janeiro, he is the way he breathes. He is capoeira. I don't know Beisola, but I heard of him also. And I know like he taught capoeira through the experience of being together with him. And my friend Ishmael, who is a seeker, somebody who is always searching. It's good that he's making you, Beisola, using this tool, the internet, the one that was made initially to make human beings to connect. Exactly, everybody of us is in a different place of the world right now, and we are talking, we are sharing. So the quarantine and the post-pandemia of the COVID-19, I don't even know the name of that in English. For me, it's being very grateful because we are doing this panel just because of that. And we know each other for at least 20, 18 years, and we never did that before. So I hope we can continue doing more lives, more panels, and using capoeira to and others methods, let's say, others bases of a lot of cultural living expressions to put us together. Capoeira teaches that, maracatu teaches that, a tribe, indigenous tribe teach that, for us to remind and to remember our humanity. And this is what is important for me right now. And I thank you so much because I'm very happy to be here. Amazing afternoon. Here's almost night, but it's amazing. Thank you so much. Obrigada. Axé.
Thank you, Ana Paula. Very good. I have Ismail, that is one of the main figures in capoeira in Cleveland. Ismail, can you hear there? Maybe you can talk to us a little bit how you have been working with the capoeira in the community and what you see as far as challenges and also as victories of spreading the capoeira in the Cleveland community.
I don't know what to say after all of that. I want to use this metaphor. John Coltrane, great jazz musician, was playing, and after he finished soloing, Miles looked at Cannonball, and Cannonball says, "What do we say?" And Miles said, "There's nothing to say after that. Train said it all." So these masquerades, they've said it all. There's nothing for me really to say. I have to be respectful to that, but I'll just give you the history of myself. For over at least 25 years, I've been working in the school districts, and I brought these art-based programs to deal with cultivating self-esteem. And capoeira is one of the things that I've utilized. I'm a musician. I'm studying in the core right now. If those familiar with the core is 21 strings, that's a challenge right there. But I bring the capoeira attitude that you can turn a disadvantage into an advantage. How can you take a proper perspective at anything when it seems to be difficult, but learning to train the mind that you can overcome those obstacles with the proper thinking. So I'm honored to be connected to Master Beisola. He's a phenomenal man. And the wealth of knowledge that he brings is just invaluable. So for me, capoeira is to bring people together, but to teach them how to bring the greatness out of themselves through the form of capoeira. That you can learn this art form with the right attitude, with consistency and discipline. So I don't really see any challenges as such. I see them as opportunities, because challenges, there are opportunities. In crisis, there's opportunity, but we have to formulate the right attitude to make that happen. So with Anna Paula, I met her many, many years ago. When she first came to Cleveland, it was an honor to interact with her. So, I mean, Country Master Dantista, I don't know if he's still on, Cleota, no. And also to Wayne Chandler, who introduced me to Master Besola. So everything is interconnected. And I just want to say a thing about the whole feminine and masculine principle. Capoeira brings that together. It unifies that principle. That's the power of Capoeira, is to integrate all of this, to make something magnificent happen. Capoeira is magical, and it always will evolve. That's the nature of humanity, is to always evolve. Capoeira will never be stagnant. In the essence and the spirit of that is evolution. So that's what we see in the power of Capoeira. That's my philosophy.
Thank you, Ishmael. Does anybody want to say anything about the etymology of the capoeira, the construction of its name?
Nestor?
Nestor is going to be the one that's going to have something to say about it.
You guys, I just need to say something real quick, because I'm also in another meeting. They're supposed to start. I'm going to just say that in this meeting, I'll be right back. Okay.
Thank you, Master Besola, for your participation.
Just 1 second. I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay. Master Nestor.
Okay. You're hearing me, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the first information that I had about capoeira, how this name came to mean this practice that we did, was when I read the book of this guy from Salvador called Valdeluir Rego. It's called Capoeira Angola. He wrote it in 1968. If you want, if you like to read and you like that, first of all, I want to say this. I have done this master degree and PhD, post-PhD. I have the books. But the basic thing that I think of capoeira is to play in the roda. With the music, with the berimbau, and with the singing, and everything else, teaching, groups, history, talking about the philosophy, because the philosophy is there when you're absorbing the capoeira philosophy, and you're playing with through your body. When you're playing with somebody else, you're absorbing that, like somebody said here, I think it was Itapua, you don't block, you try to avoid. Canjiquinha, this is an old guy from Salvador, told me before, someday, he was playing with this 10-year student of him, and he was taller than me. He was maybe 1.85 meters, 86, and he's playing with this 10-year-old kid, and then the guy gave a meia lua de French, very slow, the kid, and he went to the ground in that negativa de Angola, very, very near the ground. And then afterwards, we were having a cachaça, we're drinking a bar. And I said, listen, Mestre, this I was like 25 and he was maybe 50. And why do a capoeira guy like you, why do you avoid the meia lua de French done by a 10-year-old kid? And slowly, why do you block it with your hands? And he said, because certainly you can block a blow, but you can't block a truck with a drunken drive at 120 miles per hour. So I understood this metaphor he was saying. There you are practicing, like some of you already have said, something that has to do with life itself. So you don't, if you're blocking, sometimes you pie and then you hit. But if you avoid and you learn this art of avoidance, which means it's not something like the Christian culture. Somebody gives you here, you give the other face. No, it's not to be. you avoid, but you can give a contragolpe, a counter-golpe. You go down and put a miolo de compasso. You can sweep the guy with a rasteira and all that, or you can sleep. And he said to me, Kanjikin, this, and I understood my way of interpreting that is that capoeira, through this body dialogue that you have with somebody else, you learn something with your body, and that goes to your mind and changes your way of dealing. You're discussing with somebody. The guy, you know that the guy is wrong and all that, and he's saying, you're wearing a yellow shirt. I know I'm not wearing a yellow shirt, but you don't say, no, you're wrong. You have to go around. You have to that as a general philosophy is, I think, would be one of the capoeira teachings. And I already lost what I was saying in the beginning.
I was wondering if somebody could bring up the origin of the name capoeira.
The name of capoeira. Okay. So I read this guy, and he gave several. For example, capoeira for the Portuguese is a large basket that they used to put the chicken in this basket to take to the fair to sell. It was a capoeira was a name. So they said that the chicken, there were those cocks that they use for fighting in Bali and here in Brazil. I imagine in several other they have the fight. So they say that capoeira for this thing, capoeira would be these because these cocks were fighting. They were on that basket, and the basket gave them to the guy who is a bit crazy, né? And other guys were said that capoeira in I think it's Tupi, one of the Brazilian Indians, means the bush was cut or maybe was burned. I think was burned originally, and then comes a very small and soft vegetation. And when the guys wanted to play capoeira, they would look for these places where not any trees and all that. So there are several, and I don't think anybody has been able to really trace the origin of this, why the name means that.
And Nestor, also it's good to mention that we have also other different names also assigned to the practice of capoeira, like vadiação. To say jogar tiririca.
Yeah.
You also have like different names that was not capoeira itself to refer to the game itself.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, a lot of name relate not only to capoeira, but to slave. Everything was just pretty much way to identify. For example, capoeira means low vegetation. Like Nestor is saying. So if you look, even here, like sometime I walk in Stanford, that is like on the summer, the only thing you see that little grass, yellow grass, that's being born by the sun. So there's a capoeira. And when the cow escaped, the cow went to the capoeira. So because that was ideal place for them to do the practice. So this all look like the cow escaped. Oh, look at this slave doing the capoeira game, So it's like a lot of names just being. So like for example, when people say capoeira Angola, why? A lot of slaves came from Angola. They don't have a name for capoeira Angola. You know what I'm saying? They start to associate the name with the occasion. Now, for example, capoeira for that region was like a name. It's a way to identify things. So a lot of names that we have nowadays, it's just because of the situation, to like, okay, and that's why sometimes get confused. Capoeira movement has different schools have different names for the same movement. The same song had different lyric for the same song. So according to a place or circumstance, the same thing that Itapuã was saying, according to different time or different place, capoeira evolve a certain way. The same thing about the names, the name has been developed according to the place. It's not only like interesting. When you asked me to talk in the beginning, it was really hard because I didn't know what to say. But all the time people say something, it tweaks something that I could say about it. It's kind of interesting,
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys brought so much like important information. That's okay. I rather to speak a little bit after I didn't do a long speaking and when I got lost. But that's pretty much a lot of names. It's just for that, The European, they don't know the name about. They bring a whole bunch of slaves from Africa, bring here. They need like start to name, according to the situation. So I think this the one that also capoeira is a name of a bird. There's a bird or capoeira. The basket talks capoeira. You know what I'm saying? And what the Tapuã is saying, like vadiar, yeah. So if you know, like vão vadiar, So people start to like right now they call capoeira miudinho because capoeira is small, and then it's a create style. So people start like name everything. Okay, so there's a little opinion on the and one thing that I want to say real quick about the keep the tradition thing. I was teaching, I have a student of mine went to Brazil and doing research about capoeira. He's from Stanford. And then when he came back, I have a meeting with his profession. And then she was asking me about if my student in Brazil should keep the tradition. And I said, I have a problem with that word, Why? Because capoeira for me is an art. And it's gonna keep evolve. So the idea to just keep the tradition, like why capoeira was really popular here at a certain time, only the strong. They made a movie and they put a music that the kids can relate it to. So everybody was totally into it. Because what they put like a little boom, and then everybody got into it. Why? Because they did something that they can relate. So there's one guy from Ohio, Rohan, very good capoeira. He moves from Ohio here so that he could train me. Okay, I met him in Ohio. He moved down here to train me. So he's a really good capoeirista for a long time. We go in the same community. I teach in East Palo Alto. All right, East Oakland. So I've been in the same community for years, and I don't have a very good result. He goes there, he can communicate to the kids, like really, why? Because he's from here, he understands the language, he doesn't have accent, they understand the music. So everybody's totally into it. So what happens is whatever capoeira grows, it's gonna have a different color, So I encourage my students to write songs in English, Why? Because people speak English. Let's be honest, if you just now hear capoeira music, one instrument, out of tune, and bang, 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 bang. How long can you hear that? So they don't understand anything about the word. Like I love samba. I love samba school. But how many people in the world appreciate a samba school, samba real music? Can live for a long time because they don't know what's going on. So what happened is, unless we open our mind to allow people to sing in different language, to put their culture together, it's going to be hard. And that's one thing is about capoeira. Capoeira, we have room for that, So the name is going to be changed accordingly. Pronunciation is going to be different, and that's the thing. So that's why I prefer, my own opinion, I'm more interested what's happening now with capoeira in different parts of the world, how we're learning from, and how can you apply that to our life. History, my wife, my kids are doing that, you know what I'm saying? Because we have very little information and so many people research. So pretty soon we're gonna get all the old history because we don't have too much research about. But my main thing is like, what's capoeira doing for me right now? How is it doing for my students, their community, What's the new philosophy? Like for me, I'm more interested right now what's happening, how can that apply. I'll study history in the back, yeah, I'll do that. But, you know, how my capoeiras affect people around me. You know, what I've been learning all these years, the capoeira that I start 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it's not the same. It's not the same, you know. And one thing about, you know, Itapuã is saying capoeira at different time. I had seen that many times. All capoeira start to fight, you know. And then they said they stop going to other people's school, you know. And then they stay like 2 or 3 years, you know, and then they start to miss each other. And then one miss each other, and then they start to go big, hard, everybody together. And then later on they start to fight again. You know, it's just like fashion, go up and down, you know, and that thing. So my input is I don't get too caught up in names and things, because different place, people are going to speak a different way, you know. Like, for example, when I teach the class now, I got my look. I call this move this one, but that school called this, and that. I just do a reference, you know, because nobody gonna stop capoeira, and I'm really glad that nobody gonna stop. We're gonna continue evolve, you know, and I love it.
Obrigado. Thank you, Mestre Bessola. In truth, thank you to everyone that is listening, like Patricia and Angela. You guys never said anything. If you want to say anything, thank you for Mestre Bessola, Mestre Nestor, Mestre João, Jorge Itapuã, Ana Paula for referring the story in Itapuã as well, Laura Branco. And this is going to be available on the YouTube channel, Moises Borges. We have been going over 2 hours. I wonder if you guys have any last remarks to say before we wrap this up.
Hi, everyone. Actually, I don't do capoeira. I'm in Tira Batu. If you know who Tira Batu is, right? I'm in the samba reggae crew with Pato Irie. They were in Brazil, February, and he posted this on Facebook. So I thought I'd come in and listen, and it's very interesting. And I love history, so it's great to learn more about it.
Thank you. I did a workshop with Pato in Toronto.
Yep.
With Dylan and a few friends last year.
Okay.
Patrice?
Maybe we met. I don't know.
There were 40 people inside of the room.
Oh yeah. Okay, definitely.
It was pretty loud.
You look familiar.
I look like Mark Anthony. Anyways, I hope this. Do you want to say anything, Ismael?
Thank you.
Capoeira and Ismael's work. Jorge.
No, this is the Stores Capoeira's book, The Street Smart
This is
Song.
the book that I brought to Cleveland in 1994. Yeah. This is.
I forgot to mention one of his books is The Roots of Dance Fight Game, the third one.
Can I share one more thing with you guys?
Yes.
Can I?
Please.
Anna, you put me in a big trouble.
Huh?
Anna?
Me?
Ana Paula. Yeah, you put me in a big trouble. I go to Ohio, okay? And then, oh no, I wasn't even there. Somebody came to Anna and told that they'll work with me, all right? Oh no, we work with Mestre Bessola. She goes, I hope it's true, go to the student and say like, did you meet Mestre Bessola? Yes. Did you touch him? You know? And this girl was shocked, you know? It's like, this guy from Brazil, man, it's like I was really in trouble. What I want to say, like, Borges was really nice, was that sweet. Yeah, I was saying something interesting. The guy was like, wow, who is this guy? So this guy from Brazil talk about that. And I was in trouble because I need to like perform myself as a big match just because of you.
I didn't really understood, but we can talk later now that I know.
We can talk later.
Look, I've asked my husband to brought a very old friend of Birimbau, a very primitive. We are in quarantine, so we just teach kids how to do that. We get a iron, 2 bottles, a piece of wood, and it's gonna play a little bit of what's the name of that? Marimbau. Is that blind people in Northeast Brazil? They play that to ask for money. So we have here one very simple that we created with the kids yesterday, just to say goodbye. And you have the to do the blues, the jazz feeling, the blues line, blues slide. So we wanted to say thank you and goodbye with
Thank you.
from
Thank you,
Rio de
Ana
Janeiro,
Paula.
Laranjeiras, close to the Christ. We will talk about Zumbi because we can forget him as well.
Of course. Thank you, Ana Paula. I hope this COVID-19 is not a reason for us to do not keep in touch and communicate and exchange our experiences like we did today. And we are going to have another 4 workshops on this program from Caramu. On Wednesday, May 6th, also at 4:30 p.m., we're going to have a samba dance workshop with Alicia Ramos, that is a teacher from Oberlin. On Tuesday, May 12th at 3 p.m., we're going to have an Afro-Brazilian culinary panel with Carla Floyd from the Batuque restaurant. She's my aunt. And also with Ana Paula Jones, that's going to approach the idea of the food in relation to its orishas. On the Thursday, May 14th at 2 p.m., we're going to have an Afro-Brazilian religions panel with the focus on the orishas and its traditions from Candomblé and Ubanda. And on Monday, May 18th at 3 p.m., we're going to have an Afro-Brazilian rhythms panel, which is going to bring Fabio Gomes, which is Ana Paula's husband, Marcos Santos, which is a percussionist from Brazil, from Salvador. He is based in Boston. And we're also going to have in the panel Dylan Moffett, which is a percussionist from Cleveland, and he's doing an amazing job here with the drum lines. Patrick Duke Graney, which is also Brazilian. He plays the Brazilian percussion, and he's based in Dubai right now. And we're going to have other percussionists on the panel, and we're going to approach in a way facing the challenges in between being a foreign and being a native of Brazil, and the different ways to learn the rhythm. Today we did great. I really appreciate your companies and your inputs. And let's keep in touch and do it again. I'll let you guys, when the next one comes up, I want to say thank you again to everyone.
Thank you.
Laura Branco, Jorge, Ana Paula, Ismael, Mestre Beisola, and Nestor. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
let's keep up with the good word about capoeira. Thank you very
All
much,
right.
guys.
Take care.
Have a good day.
Tchau.
Tchau.
Obrigada. Prazer.
Tchau,
Amor.
obrigada.
Peace. Love.
Obrigado, obrigado.
Como sai?